My sibling didn't raise her voice. She stared directly at me, composed and assured, and declared, "You're too harmful. Leave now." The atmosphere grew still. My mother wouldn't meet my gaze. My stepfather remained silent. So I rose, grabbed my belongings, and departed without protest. I offered no defense. I didn't plead. I simply exited. 1 week passed, and my phone began buzzing incessantly. Her tone was frantic, nearly gasping. "Why have I received a notice to vacate?" That was the moment she at last understood a truth she hadn't anticipated. Harmful individuals don't permit siblings to reside without paying rent indefinitely. Before I describe how events reached that point, hit like and share your location in the comments, particularly if enforcing limits has ever cast you as the antagonist. I'm Elizabeth. At 35, I practice as a dentist. On the surface, my days appear serene. Crisp white uniforms, serene treatment areas, the gentle whir of instruments in the distance. Others often remark that I come across as organized. What remains hidden is how much of that serenity was forged by learning to endure unease without uttering a complaint. Our household wasn't always strained this way. After my biological father died, the dynamics altered subtly, like items rearranged under cover of night. My mother wed again several years on. That's when my stepfather entered our world, bringing his daughter, my stepsister. Officially, we formed a merged household. In practice, it resembled a precarious equilibrium that never fully stabilized. From a young age, I discovered I was the reliable one, the accountable one, the one who required little. Whenever a task arose, it typically fell to me, not through explicit assignment, but because I never grumbled when it did. I pursued education, established a profession, handled my own finances. Self-reliance turned into my standard mode. The individual who truly acknowledged me was my grandmother. She owned a modest apartment downtown, unpretentious yet inviting in meaningful ways, the aroma of aged volumes, gentle drapes that filtered the midday sun perfectly. She often remarked that a home ought to sense as if it's anticipating your return. Upon her passing, that apartment passed to me, not as a reward, but as a duty, an asset she believed I would manage well. Around then, my stepsister faced difficulties. Fresh romance, shaky money matters, grand aspirations paired with scant preparation. My mother presented it softly, merely short-term, until stability arrived. The unit stood vacant regardless. Relatives support relatives, correct? Thus, I agreed. Initially, it seemed fair. I wasn't reliant on rental earnings right away. I was handling my primary residence loan, monitoring dues, balancing routine costs. Allowing her to stay there without charge appeared compassionate. I convinced myself it was brief, perhaps under a year. Yet time elapsed, then additional periods. Discussions on deadlines grew ambiguous. Inquiries ceased resembling inquiries. Services were handled, but other aspects, maintenance, ongoing care, minor unforeseen expenses, invariably circled back to me. Whenever a twinge of uncertainty arose, I suppressed it. I avoided appearing demanding or self-centered. In retrospect, that defined the routine. I contributed silently. They accepted effortlessly. The more routine it grew for them, the less balanced it seemed for me. I simply hadn't grasped yet how costly that restraint would prove. Matters didn't erupt suddenly. They rarely do. They extend. They inch forward. They mask themselves as ordinary talks until you find yourself amid something unpleasant. It began with remarks, minor ones. My stepsister would message items like, "We could use assistance with certain expenses this period," without specifying details. Upon inquiring, she'd respond much later with an inventory that resembled demands more than appeals. Fixes? Furnishings. A modest improvement she believed the unit warranted. I observed she no longer employed terms like perhaps or possibly. Then the marriage discussions emerged. At the start, merely enthusiasm. Location she favored, shades she contemplated. I paid attention, acknowledged, provided impartial feedback while cleaning between appointments at the office or idling in congestion following extended shifts. Subsequently, figures began surfacing in dialogue, presented casually, as if casual observations, not tangible burdens. Whenever I paused, my mother would intervene soothingly. "She's merely overwhelmed," she'd note. "Weddings can be intense." I assured myself I was overinterpreting the insistence. That nobody truly anticipated me bearing it all until the meal. My mother suggested I join them, claiming it would be pleasant to gather as kin. No hidden motive, purely connection. Upon arrival, additional seats were set. Strangers at the table, my stepsister's prospective relatives-in-law. I ought to have departed immediately. Rather, I grinned and removed my jacket. The evening seemed orchestrated. Praise directed my way. Inquiries regarding my profession. How successfully I fared. The sort of focus that tenses your posture since you sense the request approaching prior to its arrival. And it materialized. My stepsister paused, then outlined the strategy, not solely the ceremony, but the ideal, its intended appearance, its desired essence, its rightful grandeur. She stated costs unflinchingly. When she eventually faced me, her grin lacked warmth. I expressed willingness to assist. I clarified I simply couldn't assume full responsibility, that I possessed constraints. That's when the mood altered. She chuckled, not humorously, dismissively. A guest commented on how straightforward my situation must be. My stepfather added a reminder of familial aid I'd received through the years. My mother said nothing. That quiet resonated more than speech. I attempted clarification, steadily, cautiously. Then my stepsister reclined, folded her arms, and uttered it. "You're acting harmful." The term struck forcefully, as if timed precisely. As if designed to silence me, not foster dialogue. Glancing about, nobody challenged her. Nobody supported me. In that instant, I comprehended with absolute precision. This concerned dominance, not funds. And I was finished feigning ignorance. Sleep evaded me that evening. Not from rage, but from sudden comprehension. My mind replayed relentlessly. The grins, the directed dialogue, the hush after I was deemed the issue. That term echoed repeatedly, as if reshaping their perception of me. The following dawn, I followed my habits mechanically. Cleanse, brew, depart. My mirror image appeared unchanged, yet an internal change had occurred. I wasn't wavering anymore. I was resolute. For several days, contact ceased. No regret expressed, no continuation. Merely absence. The absence that forms when others presume you'll return independently, when they expect duration to erode your resolve. Instead, I began observing. I retrieved my journal and detailed my contributions. Dues paid. Charges covered, minor items accumulating. I wasn't unraveling. I wasn't scheming. I was merely truthful with myself initially about the duration, about how accustomed I'd become to offering unrequested, and how improper that was. Shortly after, I consulted an attorney I'd known peripherally for years. Dependable, undramatic. We met in a tranquil office downtown, light grazing his workspace edge. I recounted all plainly. The unit, absence of written terms. The meal, the term that concluded it. He heard, then affirmed. His advice was straightforward, evident. Reclaiming legal property wasn't improper. Procedures existed. Notifications, schedules, nothing hostile, nothing immoral, merely limits documented. That term once more, limits. I returned home and lingered in my vehicle long before entering. The wheel felt chilly beneath my palms. I recalled my grandmother, how she'd entrusted me with the unit, how she maintained generosity shouldn't erode your self-worth. That evening, I contacted no one, sent no notes, announced nothing. I adhered to guidance precisely, steadily, discreetly. A notification was drafted. Formal, impartial, devoid of feeling. Mailing it at the local post felt mundane, like sending a service bill, like concluding an overdue segment. I felt no elation. I felt grounded. And instinctively, I knew the hush would soon shatter. The initial ring arrived 3 days on. I was home, footwear discarded by entrance, warming remnants, as urban sounds filled the night. My device vibrated on the surface. Her identifier appeared, I ignored. It rang repeatedly, persistently. By acceptance, missed attempts piled like frantic repetition, fearing any break would collapse her foundation. Upon answering, no greeting. Why a vacate notice? Her tone lacked edge now. No assurance, no defiance. Merely alarm, fragile and revealed. Background voices hurried, querying. Likely my mother, possibly my stepfather. Abruptly, I wasn't overlooked. I rested against the counter, allowing pause to extend. This can't be real, she continued, phrases overlapping. Must be error. Mom thought you'd relax. She figured you were upset. Upset. That label anew. Another effort to diminish me. No error, I stated evenly. My tone held firm, even to myself. The setup was described as interim. It concluded. Her respiration quickened. Deeper now. No prior alert, she retorted. You acted secretly. I nearly chuckled. Nearly. I reflected on the gathering. Their expectant stares awaiting response. No advance notice of my expected contribution. Not secretly, I replied. Without dispute. That impacted more than shouting. Contacts persisted afterward. Texts surged. Bewilderment shifted to fury. fury to negotiation. She proposed schedules, vows, justifications. Eventually, my mother joined, tone strained with artificial poise. "This escalates unnecessarily," she stated. "We're relatives. Discussion possible." I posed one inquiry. Was I relative during that meal? No reply. That hush conveyed all. 2 days on, they appeared at my door. I peered through the viewer prior to opening. My stepsister nearest, arms folded, expression rigid. My mother lingered back, gaze already moist. My stepfather glanced aside, reluctant yet trapped. I offered no entry. My stepsister initiated. "You've humiliated us," she claimed. "Do you grasp appearances?" I examined her features. The known one I'd rationalized long ago, and clarity emerged. This wasn't housing loss dread, it was control loss fear. "You instructed me to depart," I noted softly. "So I complied. Not my intent," she countered. I was distressed. "You were at ease," I responded. "Distinction exists." My mother advanced. "Dear, that's not her meaning. You understand her nature. Regrets occur in heat," I acknowledged. "Consequences follow words." My stepfather interjected. "Practicality," he suggested. "The unit isn't essential for you. You're stable. Why complicate?" That phrase weighed most, as it voiced the unspoken. I regarded him, feeling final alignment within. "Not about necessity," I clarified. "Ownership and regard," my stepsister sneered. "Punishing us then?" I denied. "No, withdrawing." She gazed as if reassessing, seeking leverage. Then tone sharpened. "You're harmful." The term retained, weapon-like. I remained steady. "Harmful people," I uttered deliberately, "don't let siblings occupy their units without rent." The statement emerged not furious, but conclusive. Briefly, silence. My mother's lips parted, then shut. My stepfather eyed his footwear. My stepsister's complexion reddened, then paled, as if grasping a core shift. "You can't evict us," she murmured faintly. "Where to reside?" I held her stare. A query for before dismissing my respect. Her poise fractured then. Attempts at regret, then accusation. Then regret anew. Each seemed scripted, testing for effect. None succeeded. "Time per notice granted," I said. "No extra, no less." My mother touched my sleeve. I withdrew. Not harshness, I noted. A limit. They departed soon. Not theatrically, but subdued. The subdued after overreach recognition. Irreparable. Subsequent weeks flowed tranquilly. No further rings, no texts. Merely distance. On the last day, I avoided entry. I observed from opposite road, seated in vehicle as they packed containers. My stepsister evaded my view. My mother proceeded deliberately, as if burden finally registered. Upon completion, my stepsister approached, set keys on my hood. Her palm paused briefly, as if considering more. She refrained. They left without glance. No victory felt. Freedom did. The unit hushed post-departure. Not vacant hush, the hush that rests without rebound. I toured rooms gradually, noting overlooked details, marked surfaces, a wobbly door fitting, typical use narrating neutrally. I addressed necessities, minor fixes. New coat, undramatic. Soon, fresh occupants arrived, trustworthy, courteous. Dues arrived promptly, steady, straightforward. For the initial time, the unit embodied my grandmother's vision. Secure, not burdened. Contact from kin ceased. No regrets. No claims. The absence differed now, buoyant, as if I'd released a long-standing load unaware of its mass. I centered on my existence. Duties lightened. Nights extended. I began declining sans mental justification. That transformed much. I didn't forfeit kin that day. I shed the notion love demands self-diminishment. That release granted unprecedented calm. Long I bore the term harmful as a mark. Replaying the meal, I questioned if too resolute, too unyielding, too guarded of self. Households instill love via sacrifice measure. But I learned this eventually. When utility ends, entitlement-based individuals label with ethical-sounding terms. Harmful, greedy, cruel, not assessments. Objections, reactions to denied access, limits supplanting ease. I didn't ruin kin. I exited a position eroding me gradually. Existence is calmer now. Not void, but truthful. I allocate resources to nourishing elements over depleting. The resulting calm surpasses prior sought validation. If this tale resonates uncomfortably, no solidarity. Comment your location and the limit that altered your path. It could aid another's visibility. For additional true accounts of kin disloyalty, subtle retribution, and prioritizing self-regard, subscribe.